Kia ora and welcome to today's Industry Insights webinar. My name is Hayden Blucher and I'm from the Building Institute Aotearoa, and I will be your host for today's 2025 Reflection and 2026 Outlook with Revizto. Thanks to those who have joined us live today. Following the completion of this webinar, we'll be posting the recording on the resources tab of our website, which is buildinginstitute.nz. Before we get started, I just wanted to share a few events that we have coming up. So firstly, our annual conference Build Up 26 is taking place on the 26th of March in Christchurch. With the theme this year being people, productivity and performance, we look forward to hosting members and wider industry for some important discussions and insights. Like all of our events, Build Up, we're plenty of opportunities for networking and connection with peers. So we please, encourage you to come along. Tickets are on sale now. We've got a great lineup of speakers and we'd love to see as many of you as possible there. In addition to Build Up, we have a host of events listed on our website. Our social calendar is in full swing at the moment with our Welcome Back Bowl series taking place across the country. And then next Tuesday, I'll be up in Auckland for our Northern Region Golf Tournament, which, whilst sold out, is always a pretty popular one on the calendar. And then on the 12th of March, we have our annual fishing competition in collaboration with Kalmar Construction. So there are still spaces for that if anyone wants to jump out on a boat and catch some fish. It's always good fun. Outside of the social events, we have our site visits, which are now kind of popping up, taking place. And we've got a series of educational events which are in the pipeline at the moment. So yeah, if you're interested in any events, please visit our website. They're all listed there. And now, I guess, to the reason we're all here today, today's webinar. So we are pleased to be joined by three of the Revizto team. Firstly, we have Chris Mawson, Industry Consulting Director, APAC. So Chris is a digital construction specialist with 30 plus years of global project experience. At Revizto, he leads the implementation services, delivering training and guidance while advancing digital delivery methods. We are then joined by Michael Richards, Enterprise Industry Consultant. So Michael is an AECO specialist with 9 years experience across Australia and New Zealand. At Revizto, he supports customers across the Asia Pacific region, focusing on New Zealand and Australia. And finally, Michael Cullen, Territory Manager. So Michael is a construction and infrastructure technology specialist with experience supporting project teams across New Zealand. At Revizto, he supports customers to improve collaboration across projects. So welcome to everyone today. To kickstart, I will throw across to the speakers to take us back to 2025 and take a moment to look across the New Zealand projects that you were involved in. I guess we're keen to get a sense of what 2025 looked like for Revizto, and more specifically, were there any key issues delivery teams spent the most time dealing with, and what patterns kept coming up again and again. So I'll throw across to you to take over from here. If anyone has any questions, feel free to input those into the Q&A chat and we'll keep an eye on it. Keen to hear your thoughts as well. So over to you.
Thanks, Hayden.
I
don't mind kicking off. So I think from I guess an industry perspective with Revizto, it was a really productive year in New Zealand. We saw certain things which reoccurred again and again. I guess from our perspective, it was making sure the teams have access to the right tools, and I guess picking the right tool for the job. There was still skills gaps and things like that from lack of adequate training, I guess, or the perception of a certain tool is just used for a certain kind of task, which we were kind of like breaking down. And the overall digitalization and upskilling of the workforce as well was relevant. So there's a lot of work that we've been doing on site with site teams. I think there's the perception that Revizto is just a design tool, so it's actually breaking down those barriers and making sure that teams who have access to the tools actually understand what it can do to help them. It's not just for the design teams, for instance. It could be, it's very much applicable to the site side of things as well.
Yeah, and I guess
Michael?
to add to that, one of the Michaels, interoperability, integrations, and APIs were also a huge part of the conversation that was coming up regularly last year. So teams have a tech stack that can be 5, 10, 20 different products that they're actually using as part of their project delivery, and Revizto is one of them. So it's how does Revizto fit in nicely and play alongside all of those other tools? So there are a lot of conversations about how does that work with tools like our Power BI connector, the API, so that issues or information raised in one environment are also accessible in all of the other ones. And that's been a real focus for different teams, actually making all of that information accessible to the project managers and people who might not be in an environment like Revizto.
Yeah, and I'll jump in to probably more of an industry recurring theme that came up across multiple main contractors. So often BIM was being managed centrally by head contractors or consultants on behalf of trades. And that approach limited early constructability input from the subcontractors. Trades were often reviewing later rather than owning the coordination, but we've seen a positive shift over the last 12 months or so with stronger uptake of ECI and design and build models where the trades have been engaging earlier and also required to model their own scope, which has helped reduce issues and increase buildability outcomes. So when trades are brought on earlier and model their own work with tools like Revizto, clashes become collaborative problems rather than contractual disputes.
Yeah, and I guess bringing everybody on the journey as well. We've seen it, I go back to a time that Michael and I ran on site, just doing training with site people. Again, going back to the understanding of, it's Revizto, it's a 3D tool. It could be any 3D tool that you're using on site, but it's not applicable to me. It's more to the design team or the office team. So it's breaking down those barriers and bringing everybody on the journey to not just upskill the designers or the people in the office, but construction as a whole. And this is what we're trying to do. We're not just focusing on a specific area. We want to educate the entire industry and bring it all up, upskill the entire industry and move it along. I think we all know that the industry is a bit of a luller at times. So it's like trying to push it into the new digitalization and upskilling the entire workforce.
You get the sense there's a willingness, from I guess those site teams and stuff, or people in general to upskill and to understand the technology and get stuck in.
I'd say absolutely. I mean, people want more information. They want to be able to see what the actual problem is that they're solving without having to dig through 20 different sheets that are looking at it across details, sections, and elevations. Actually, having a good 3D model in your hands solves so many of those problems. And when you give people access to that information, they're excited and they're asking, where was this 25 years ago? So, yeah, very often they are keen. There's occasionally limitations like site safety, where people can't have devices for specific sites, or there are other concerns. But yeah, often there's a lot of interest.
Yeah, and I guess it's just knowing what the tools are. Knowing that you've got the tools to start with is, believe it or not, when companies buy the software, it's sometimes internal issues to let people know that they have got access. And a tool like Revizto, it's knowing that you can't break it and getting that across to especially people who are not digitally savvy, for instance. Say, don't worry, you can't break it. It's all in the cloud, so just go for your life. And then you kind of chip away at it, and then the light bulb will go off in someone's head. I remember Michael and I were on a site midwinter in Dunedin, and we had a tradesperson come up with stubby little shorts on, quite an older gentleman. And it came up to me, and I was teaching him how to use the site application, and it was just like, and I guess it was ageist of me thinking, oh, right, how's this going to go? But he just lapped it up, and he could see the benefit of having the 3D model there, having the 2D sheet overlaid over the 3D model with the augmented reality as well. And of everybody that we trained that day, he was the one person who was there the longest. And, so you can change attitudes and you can change people's perception. I guess that's what we want to do, and especially with this. We've got an aging workforce, and we are going to have for many years to come. So it's actually, training people new skills.
Yeah, that's certainly something that, we've kind of touched on in previous events. It's kind of come through that nature of the aging workforce, with a large percentage, I can't remember the exact number, but, due to exit the workforce in the next 5 to 10 years. And then there's that kind of next generation that we need to foster through. And there's,
Yeah,
sometimes be.
Sorry, the Infrastructure Commission's report yesterday touched on that as well, which came out. So yeah, it's very front of mind.
Very topical. Yes,
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Anything else you want to touch on in terms of kind of that reflection to 2025? Brilliant. So I guess next kind of section is where was time lost and decisions got stuck. So I guess from the live projects you were involved in, where did you see time consistently being lost or decisions getting stuck? And what made those bottlenecks so hard to shift?
Michael?
Yeah, we'll go Cullen first.
Cool. Yeah, I guess when time's been lost and decisions stuck, then not everybody on the project has the same level of digital adoption. So it's the weakest link that slows the project down, whether that be, issue resolution or model reviews or getting that information to site. So if some teams still rely on PDF markups and others are working on a model first approach, it's that mismatch that causes duplicates and slows down project delivery. So I guess it's the inconsistency on how tools are adopted can create bottlenecks. So would be one take from me. Michael, Chris?
Yeah, I guess to touch on that, it's coming back to the point that Chris made in the last section as well. It's the awareness of what the tools do. So often when I'm having training conversations with people, they'll be saying, oh, we used to do this in Navisworks, or I'm still taking this through a process where it goes through, another tool, it goes into Excel, it goes through all of these different steps before they can actually do what they need to with the information, rather than knowing that workflow was available in Revizto or another tool that they had access to and could have saved them 2 or 3 times that effort and that work. So it's knowing what you've bought, it's knowing what's available and what the functions are in there that can actually help deliver your projects more easily is often not a roadblock, but it's somewhere where people get a bit stuck and get stuck in their old ways, I think.
Yeah, and it's understanding the workflows, and that's the beauty of the Revizto customer success team, is that they've all come from industry, so they all know and understand how you deliver the project. So we actually sit down with the teams, be it the design team or general contractors or subtrades, and look at the workflows of how they're doing it at the moment, as Michael Richard said there, and just maybe tweak some of these workflows, and the savings in time and effort, and also de-risking projects is massive. And that's something that I think we're going to talk about later, but it's like de-risking projects is huge. Revizto is people perceive it as, it's just 3D clash detection, that's it. So much more than that. And if you look at one of the major factors in building or constructing assets, it's the risk involved, especially for the contractors or for all the people in the design chain. So if we can de-risk it, it's a huge benefit across the entire industry.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like, you mentioned a few times one of the biggest kind of challenges for you guys sometimes is the teams kind of understanding the product that they've got available to them and, actually, how to use it. And I guess, is that something that you're seeing a lot across different, companies and stuff like that? There's a lot of organizations out there that have things which they don't necessarily actually, haven't filtered necessarily down further into the organization. And I guess, how are you kind of helping?
Yeah, that's a very regular occurrence, and it's something that we're dealing with more this year with a few clients with Lunch and Learn series, and trying to figure out how we actually work to make sure the information gets into the hands of the end users that are actually doing things like responding to issues, fixing the models, actually working out on site. So we find that there is a very high skill level when we're talking to the digital teams, the people who are in Revizto every single day, who are doing Clash, who are publishing models, all of those things. But for the end user, that information isn't necessarily trickling down. It might be on a SharePoint, a OneDrive, a video recording that's been done 2 years ago or somewhere like that, But if you're not regularly in those tools, you're not getting that experience, that awareness of how to actually do certain things. So between things like Lunch and Learns, our learning management system, Revizto Academy, and the on-site training and sessions that we do, we really are trying to push that and make sure that everyone that is on a project understands how to use what they have.
Now, when you talk about those digital roles or people, within digital roles, is that something you're seeing more and more of within organisations now? I know just from our perspective at the Building Institute, we have a project called the Career Pathways Project, which has kind of looked at lots of different roles and maps out how people that have entered the industry have ended up where they are, which, isn't always a linear path. But the second phase of that project is really looking into digital roles to see how people have kind of come in and ended up in the digital roles they are in now. And I guess there's more and more roles popping up. Is that something that you're seeing?
And I guess I can talk from my own experience there as well. And Chris, I can see you've got a comment afterwards, but I studied a Master of Architecture at Victoria, finished in 2017. Went into architecture and did that traditional pathway, and then I decided I liked modeling Revit families. I liked looking at how things went together, so I went into a BIM role, not really knowing what it was. That led to me working at Warren Marnie and being heavily experienced in the BIM coordination side before going into computational design and these very specific digital roles before ending up at Revizto. So I think, as people are getting more familiar with the tools and the knowledge also becomes much more specialized, there is a growing number of people that are in those purely digital roles or VDC roles, actually helping to build it the first time or build any project the first time digitally before they build it physically and try and avoid some of those issues. Chris?
Yeah, I think there was a great post by Darren Puglisi last week on LinkedIn, who kind of approached this exact subject, and it was education of the roles as well, of the digital roles. So making sure that the people who are actually in these digital roles have the understanding and the correct education. I think it's really, really important. I mean, when I started my journey many decades ago, there was no such thing as BIM. We started on a drawing board, so but now it's progressed to this level where you're expected to be educated into these digital roles. I think it's really important and exciting for the industry. I mean, if I was setting out my journey now, 100% I'd be going down this avenue. I love playing around with 3D models and data and seeing things built on site. So I think it's an exciting time for the whole industry as a whole. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, very exciting. All right, well, moving on, I guess looking at across major New Zealand projects you're involved in last year, and I know there was quite an impressive list that I saw of various big projects, across the country. What will kind of one or two practical lessons that you think translate well to other New Zealand projects? I guess, keen to hear a little bit about some of those projects you're involved in, I guess some of the learnings and some of the lessons you can provide the audience here.
Yeah, I think the large projects, they're going all in digital. So they're integrating massive point clouds and existing conditions and proposed structures into unified environments. And the modern tools can now handle those massive amounts of data, which is now trickling down into their smaller projects as well. They've seen it work so well on the large projects that it's now becoming their standard workflow. So even the smaller projects are now doing the reality captures and scan to BIM and mandating BIM on the much smaller scale projects after seeing the success on the larger projects. So that would be my key takeaways. The tools can handle it now, so it's becoming standardized. Thoughts on that, Chris?
Yeah, I guess, just opening up, democratize. This word pops up all the time of the 3D model, the 2D sheets. Getting everybody into the project, is super important, and breaking down those kind of perceived barriers again, that not everybody's digital savvy, but I honestly believe anybody can use Revizto. It's so easy to use. Michael Richard would be able to teach how to use it in an hour. So it's getting everybody in there to making sure you've got the real benefit of the software, and making it relevant to the audience. So going back to being on site, don't show them how to do clash detection if it's a trade, so we can actually do the training specifically for the audience in the room. But there's so many different facets to the larger projects as well, and I guess making sure that everybody understands the software which they've got and how it's applicable to them. So it's very relevant to them in their everyday job. Like quantity takeoff, for instance, everybody thought there'd be a lot of people that don't even realize that you can do it straight out of Revizto with a little bit of a workflow. So we showed this to a site team and they were blown away. And it was just like, how did we not know about this 12 months ago when we were going through this process? So yeah, there's so many different facets, and actually getting in and understanding the larger projects. Michael's been going around the sites and sitting down with the general contractors and the trades, and just understanding, listening. I think one of the biggest tools that we do have is actually listening to clients, sitting down, understanding the workflows, and then, mapping it out with them and say, well, this is, if you want to get a QTO out of the model, this is what you do, and you compare it week on week, so you can see scope creep if you want and things like that. So, Michael?
Yeah, I'll go for a point of repetition there, but really that targeted team training and leveraging the Revizto team, mainly myself in this situation in Revizto Academy, to actually get the most out of those tools. So I think last year I did a in-person training session in every major centre in New Zealand. So I did a trip down to Invercargill, Dunedin and Queenstown, Christchurch, Rotorua, Auckland, Wellington. I'm pretty sure I was everywhere at one point or another. But it was actually taking the time to sit with those teams, work on the features that they needed, that they were interested in, and that were going to benefit them at that point in time, that was incredibly useful. And I think I often find that once you get over that little roadblock that a team has, it might be a confidence gap or a skill gap. Once you get over that, they're away laughing and they understand, they're willing to try different things, and they see the benefits of actually applying that knowledge onto their project.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, it's been applicable to them. So I always say, if you can use a tool and it gets you leaving the site or leaving the office at 5 p.m. or whatever time you leave, perfect. The industry is terrible at, flogging people to work longer hours. I was a structural engineer for decades, and you work until 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night sometimes. So if we have tools, if we've got the digitalization that we can actually reduce that burden on people, fantastic.
Yeah. Just thinking of some of those kind of big projects that you have worked on, was there any kind of, one or two in particular that, they did something different, or, there might be an example from one of them that you could touch on? I don't know if you can go into specific details of who, what they were, or...
We probably can't name projects, but we could name workflows. There's a project in Auckland that is using a GIS workflow, which was groundbreaking. Not just on a New Zealand level, but on a global level as well. So they're integrating the Revizto issues into GIS. So they're looking at it as it's a linear project. So actually, joining the dots together. So you're not just using one software. You're picking the best software for the actual product and the roles. So they were using Revizto to manage the clashes and the issues, but they were bringing the location, the geolocation, into GIS so everybody could see it. And they'd saved, delivered the project on time and on budget. And in this day and age, I think we all know that's not the norm. So that to me was a massive standout for me. I don't know the other guys.
Michael, do you want to go with your example first so I don't steal anything?
Oh, let me think. Yeah, probably a medical project. When we had one contractor advised their build was almost without issues, except there was one element that was not modeled, which created massive coordination issues and rework on site. And the feedback from the person was, oh, well, digital clearly didn't work, but it was because they hadn't actually modeled the item that they couldn't run the clash detection. So I think that's kind of showing that the project almost went perfectly apart from one small part of the model that wasn't modeled. Another example was a large renovation project where they decided to heavily invest in a digital first approach. The existing structure, they'd used scan to BIM, and they found that the floors were not all level, and if they hadn't have done that and they'd left it to the site team to do it, would have massively blown out in costs. So investing in those tools to prevent issues is definitely saving a lot of money.
Yeah, and I guess just to add to that as well, something that has been quite useful for a number of large projects in New Zealand has just been use of point clouds and actually capturing those existing conditions, bringing them into Revizto and actually comparing those against the design models, against the shop models, against all of that content that they're generating from these different sources. So that's been relevant, like Michael mentioned, on the renovation project, on large existing campuses, linear and vertical builds. Having access to all of that information in one space has meant that it is anyone on the team is able to look at it instead of it just being something that lives with the BIM team, with the digital team. The guys on site can be looking at that information. The team back in the project office, back at home office, they can all access that same source of truth, which is incredibly powerful for all of those projects.
Yeah, just touching on that, it's not a New Zealand project, but it's an Australian project, but it's utilizing the point clouds and the single source of truth in a bonkers size project. I think it's 27-kilometer long tunnels in this project. Wow. They've got, at the last count, and this is nearly a year ago now, they had 2,200 point clouds in the model. So every time they bore out the tunnel, they do a point cloud. So the geotech engineers are looking at it from a geotechnical perspective. So forget about buildings; they're using the tool in a completely different way, but it's using the best tool for the process that they're using it for, which they couldn't use 2,200 point clouds in any other software. So it was utilizing Revizto in a way that we'd not even thought about. And this is on a there's 4 tunnels which are 27 kilometers long, down to the bolts on the the hydro turbines. They'd modeled absolutely everything. It was a model first approach. So yeah, fantastic to see some of these very, very large projects utilizing Revizto and still working, still being able to handle that amount of data. So.
Yeah, that would certainly be rewarding for you all to see. Moving on kind of to the last question, just a reminder for the audience as well, if anyone has any questions you want to put in, we'll have about 10 minutes for some Q&A, so feel free to put those in the Q&A function or even in the chat and we can monitor those. But I guess looking towards, we're midway through Feb now into 2026, which has gone very quickly, but looking towards the year ahead, what do you expect to matter most for New Zealand delivery teams, whether that's using standardization, tech stack decisions, or how teams are using automation and AI? What do you think people should be prioritizing now?
Who wants to go?
I'll jump in. Good. All of the above. So I've been seeing companies moving towards repeatable digital delivery models. So, driving consistency across regions and projects, regardless of the location and scale. So it's not like multiple ways to deliver a project. It's one way to deliver the project. And by doing the standardization, it then enables them to do automation. And we've been hearing from companies across New Zealand that when they then do automation, they're getting anywhere from 2 to 10 times the staff efficiencies on projects. So that drives profitability and it reduces errors on projects. So not reinventing the wheel on every project enables you to be more efficient across all your projects. Another trend, which again we've spoken about, is the use of API. So syncing data across multiple platforms. I think that's going to definitely continue in 2026. So they can standardize their workflows across all these different platforms they're using. I guess the last one for me as well is that owners are increasingly demanding digital handover of their data. So moving from can we build this to how do we actually operate this once we've inherited this building? So there's massive data sets generated during design and construction, and all too often it gets thrown away. But the owners of the building are going to be demanding that because it's hugely valuable information during operations. So those are 2 or 3 key takeaways from me.
I guess I can touch on one of the things that I think is, regularly coming up from teams and something that people are looking towards more in 2026 as well, and that's just the return on investment. So it's something that, has been it's an age-old question. And in the case of Revizto, what it often comes down to is how do you measure the cost of an issue that was avoided, or how do you measure the value of that issue that was avoided? So teams can be solving hundreds, thousands, or hundreds of thousands of clashes in some of their Revizto projects. And there's a lot of time and effort that goes into that from the design teams, from the coordinators, from anybody working on that project. So how do you then measure that against the cost of Revizto or any product and what you've actually sunk into that already? So companies like Performance have publicly shared some of their own research on that, of how for every dollar that they're spending on digital, they're saving 20 in terms of issues avoided on site. But each company does want to actually verify that for themselves and actually go through that process of figuring out how do we present this number back to the CFO and actually say, this is going to save us money, this is an investment, and it is beneficial to us. The other bit that would probably come up is just leveraging that new functionality that we have already added. So we had a major update at the end of 2025, which was Revizto 5.17. That included a lot of infrastructure functionality and support there. And then through 2026, through 2027, we're looking to really improve the 2D workflows that are capable with inside Revizto. So that then means that teams are going to be able to look at all of the aspects of delivery in that one environment with the tools that really help them deliver that project on time and ideally under budget.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. I guess there's a couple for me that stand out. Reducing risk and rework. Again, this is something that comes up quite frequently, a lot of the time, and it's something that people, I guess, don't see it right in front of them. But reducing the risk to an overall project is massive. We know projects are getting more complex. The reduction or squeeze in fees and timeframes. So there's a lot more risk, especially in these larger projects. So how can we kind of reduce that with I don't remember Revizto how, but with the software itself and rework? We still get so much rework in the industry. So it's actually reducing that, which will have a knock-on effect to your bottom line as well. I guess the management of data or clean, structured data. I mentioned the Infrastructure Commission report, which came out yesterday. Had a quick read through. It's saying 60% of investment should go to existing assets, but the same 50% of agencies do not have adequate maintenance plans or asset registers. So I guess analogy I always look at is like, how many new buildings do you see or new roads do you see going up at the moment out there compared to existing buildings? So it's new build is tiny in comparison to existing assets. So it's how do we manage that better? And I think this is what the report is kind of getting at, that we spend so much money on infrastructure. I think it's 20 billion a year. It's 5% of the GDP. We're one of the highest in the OECD, but on return on investment, we're in the bottom 10 or something. So it's getting smarter about how do we use digital technologies to manage the data and manage the assets, I guess. One final thing is, from a lot of the CIOs that we're talking globally, is reduction in tech stack. Again, the squeeze on fees and the squeeze total reduction in technology spend. It's like picking the best tool for the job. So it's not just a tool that just does one specific job itself. So making sure you've got the right tools for the right project, and make sure that, if you can reduce that tech stack by choosing one specific software, then you're getting more ROI and getting better use of it. So I guess this is where the customer success team and what Michael Richards has done so fantastic in New Zealand is making sure we're getting out there, we're teaching everybody how to use the software, and so the companies are getting the best ROI out of that as well.
Mm. Yeah, the theme that's certainly come through from you all is that, if you actually understand it and adopt it, then there usually is pretty good ROI on it. It's just, I guess, getting that message or the confidence to invest in it and use it. One thing we haven't really touched on, is AI, and I guess keen to understand from your perspective, thoughts on AI, where it kind of is going, where it's relevant in terms of your technology, and yeah, anything AI related that you want to talk to?
Oh, we're definitely looking at it in the background. There's a lot of hype about AI at the moment. Some positive, some negative. I was reading again this morning about there's someone from Cambridge University is talking about the Hindenburg effect, which was, I don't know whether you know the Hindenburg Zeppelin, which was back in 1920 something, which crashed, and everything was involved with air travel was based on the Zeppelin. It crashed, and then the market just stopped. The whole thing just stopped, and he was kind of comparing AI to that at the moment. So I think
right.
there's a lot of hype, there's a lot of build up in it, but I think it's not going to take away people's jobs, but I think it's here to stay. I think so. We've just got to embrace it, I think, and see where we can get the benefits from it. But I think the people that don't embrace it might see a downtrend. So yeah, keeping up with technology, but I guess we just don't know where it's going to go at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I
I
think
guess
a post that I've seen
that's
going
okay.
around a few times
Okay.
recently. It's all right, I'll be quick. It's not that AI will take your job, but that somebody using AI will.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're going to say something, Michael Cullen?
Yeah, I think, from the last 12 to 24 months of Revizto, we've been investing in getting the most out of the technology with automation. So it's a form of AI. It's like intelligence. So those who have implemented automation are getting massive ROI. I think AI is the next big thing, but it's still going to be a year or two away until you get that same ROI for your project. So automation over AI.
Yeah. No, it's certainly interesting. And I mean, over the last year, we've touched on AI a bit. We had featured it at our conference last year, and we've done a few webinars and stuff. And I still get the sense that still a bit of uncertainty out there. Like everyone knows that they kind of should be using it or they want to understand how to use it, but there's still probably an education piece around how to actually, maximize it properly and well and safely. And there's still a bit of work to do there. I guess another kind of thing to touch on from me is one of the big focus for us at the Building Institute, obviously, is that next generation of students and people coming into the industry. We've got our own kind of young professional advisors group, and we have a lot of student members. What are you seeing from that next generation of people coming through? Are they a bit more digital savvy coming in, or is there still an education piece that needs to happen at that level to make sure once they're in the workforce, they're equipped with the right tools and to actually make an impact?
Chris?
Yeah, I guess not firsthand, but we are working pretty hard with tertiary education throughout the APAC region, not just in New Zealand, but over the ditch as well. We're doing a lot of work there. We're standardizing the kind of Revizto training so we can help with universities or TAFEs or techs kind of standardize that education, because let's face it, if the new recruits are coming out of uni without these digital tools and knowledge, then they're already behind. So we need to educate them right at the grassroots. And let's face it, the new people coming through will be tech savvy anyway. They're not like me, who's there wasn't the internet when I started. So yeah, it's second nature to them. So I think we will see the uptake in digitalization. It's going to push the industry forward, which is what the Revizto is all about, really.
Yeah, awesome.
And we've also been investing with the likes of guest lectures. Michael Richards is out on campus teaching people how to actually do digital and construction as well, which has been had really good feedback from the industry as well. But we see those young people coming into industry and actually teaching the older people how to use tools, whether that be Revit or Revizto or any of those other tools. It's the people leaving university who often have the best skills, not necessarily for the finer details, but they know how to use the tools.
Yeah, nice. It sounds like you're out and about a bit, Michael, in terms of, on the ground talking to customers and stuff. I guess for anyone on this call or listening afterwards, like how often or how do they approach you if they need to, upskill or are keen to upskill or understand more?
Yeah, I guess anyone that's using Revizto already will probably have mine or Michael's email. They're pretty easy to find as well on our LinkedIn profiles, or they are available. But if you go through the website, you can send in a request and that will come to us as well, so we can get in contact with you from there.
Yeah, awesome. Cool. It doesn't look like we've got any questions. There still is, a few minutes if anyone wants to add any questions in, we're happy to answer them. If not, then obviously, any questions that come up afterwards, as you said, people can contact you directly or send it through to us and we can reach out. But I guess any final comments from any of your panelists?
I guess maybe one last comment just on what Chris and Michael were discussing before. I do think that for people just coming into the industry, having that understanding on the digital tools is a real shortcut to being seen as more senior or being more trusted on projects and being given work that you probably shouldn't be on with the skills that you have, but it's a fantastic shortcut to getting there. I think the real benefit then comes as well when you start to marry up the teams. So you've got your juniors coming in with that digital experience and your older team that have got all of the site experience and the delivery experience, and saying, work together, get the best out of each other, and actually leverage that to deliver the project better, faster, and again, under budget.
Yeah, great point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to this year. I think 25, what was the terminology we were discussing before? Survive 25. I think hopefully the Reserve Bank, shows us some indication today that the economy is recovering. So I think there's an announcement on that today. So I'm positive. I like the work that the Infrastructure Commission's pushing out. So I'll dive into that more over the next few days. But yeah, I've got a buzz again about the industry, not just in New Zealand as well. I think we look after APAC region as well, so we're seeing an increase in activity there. So yeah, looking positive, I think, and yeah, we'll be here pushing forward as much as we can.
Always good to hear a bit of positivity. I think everyone's quietly, hoping, or yes, very much hopeful that the year ahead's a better one than the last couple of years, that's for sure. Look, I think that's all we've got time for today. That doesn't look like any questions have come through, which is fine. I just want to say, firstly, on behalf of the Building Institute, a massive thank you to the three of you for speaking, and just for the general support from Revizto. We've shared a long relationship with you and the team now, which is always much appreciated. We've touched on some great things today in terms of some of the work that we're doing. I mentioned briefly at the start that career streams project that we do. There is a digital version of that, a digital stream of that coming out soon. So that will be interesting just to see, how people have ended up in the digital roles that they are in now, and how they've kind of navigated from entering the industry into where they've got to. So please, when that comes out, feel free to have a look. And then, finally for me, obviously we do have our build-up conference happening on the 26th of March. So please take a look at, the schedule that we've put out for that. And then, if you can make it along, we'd love to see you there. The recording will go up on our website if anyone wants to listen or pass it on to their teams. But that's all from me now. So thank you very much for taking part. Thank you for those who have joined online, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you very much.
Great.
See ya.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Cheers.